What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today's reaction video is ranking the 50 state capitals of the USA.
Yeah, I read that weird because of the way they spell capitals. Because America spell it wrong.
This is capitals.
Well, not the wrong. They spell it right for their country.
Controversial.
They spell it right for themselves, but it's wrong for me.
Different to us.
If I wrote that, yeah, but if I wrote that on the spelling test, I'd get marked down.
Oh, depends where you are.
Well, if I did it in England,
I'd hope it'd give you half a point. I would hope if you did it in England, it'd give you half a point.
We call it capitals.
And vice versa. If you're in America, I'd hope you'd get half a point. I don't think they would, though.
We use an A, don't we, instead?
We use an A. Yeah. Smash that button, guys. Smash that subscribe button. Welcome back. Hopefully you enjoyed the stream, because you guys will be just coming from a stream, because hopefully it's going to go out like literally a minute after we finish the stream.
Yeah, hopefully.
Like, I'm going to hopefully plan it like we finish. This is going to go out 11:30, I think, our time, which is about 6:30 Eastern, I want to say, fingers crossed. But like, right, we're ending the stream, videos come out in 1 minute, boom, and then we like end, the notification goes, ooh, that went weird, it went fuzzy for a second, now it's back. This is Geography King.
You've gone fuzzy for a minute.
He was very brutal in the last one we did. We did the state flags. He did not like state flags.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, he was very brutal. We're doing the state capitals today, so we're looking at buildings. I work in architecture. I like a good building. I have done this video a long time ago, so it's going to be super interesting to see if my opinion's changed. So if you guys want to compare, go to my old reaction ages ago and compare whether, because I'm just going to give you my opinion again. I've got no clue what I said in my video. It was probably about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So I don't know what I said. I'm just going to give my opinion on the hopefully beautiful building.
Fair enough.
And vice versa, you're going to do the same, aren't you?
Yeah.
Smash that button, guys. Smash that subscribe button. Check out Patreon. The link is in the description. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's check it out. Ranking the 50 state capitals. What we got? Oh, what have I done? I think we're off.
Howdy. It's
Howdy.
Kyle with the
Kyle.
video
We
ranking
missed
the
it.
50 state capitals. When I say capital, I'm talking with an OL at the end, so the buildings, not the city itself. A state capital is the most prominent physical symbol of your entire state. It should be something that people from...
Maybe they spell capital the same, but just like
they
capital.
Do. Well, they're talking about capital city.
We're on about building, which is capital. I don't know what we call building like that.
I don't know.
Ignore what we said a minute ago. Just ignore it.
From that state walk by or drive by.
We don't know
and
what
are proud
about.
of it. To see something as a nice symbol of their state, but is also aesthetically pleasing.
Okay.
I personally visited 40 of the 50 state capitals, and I hope to someday visit all of them. But whenever you do a ranking video, of course, it's going to be all opinions and an eye of the beholder.
Definitely.
So think of this video more like an overview of the 50 state capitals, just
You're
presented
brutal.
in my personal favorite order. I'm going to start the state ranking with the worst capital in the country, and that's Alaska. This looks like just a regular old bank building in a downtown. And I get that Alaska is a lightly populated state, and Juneau's a pretty small town for a capital. But at the same time, this cannot be your state capital. This cannot be the building that represents your state. And Alaska might move its capital to Anchorage.
It's an office building, isn't it?
Yeah,
but for right
it's nice.
now, this is the state capital, and it's the worst one in the country.
But it's pretty standard.
Nevada's is the first of many where the building itself is nice. It's nice architecture. It just isn't a good building for your state capital. It just isn't prominent enough, and it doesn't have to be large, but at the same time, it does have to be a little more prominent than this. And I do like the Silver Dome. Nevada's a silver state, but overall, this cannot be your state capital. It looks more like a library.
I think the trees hide it.
The first time I saw Virginia's, I was like, wow, that's a really nice governor's mansion. What? That's the state capital?
That's nice.
The building behind it would be a better state capital.
Oh, I do like it. The building behind it would make... I think... I'm not a state capital expert, but it feels like the building behind has more...
History.
History, that's the word I was looking for. It does, doesn't it? It looks like it's got a bit more...
That looks very White Housey.
I was thinking that. Or, oh, what's it?
Museums. Like, this gives me, like,
Museum.
The New York Library, kind of.
Yeah, I'm thinking...
Am I thinking of the right place?
No, I'm thinking of the Abraham Lincoln bit. Do you know Abraham Lincoln sat on the thing and you're looking at it? Maybe I'm wrong. Just with the pillars.
That reminds me of no, the National History Museum.
Oh, okay. I can't remember what it looks like, but yeah.
Or the art gallery.
Behind it seems a bit more history, medieval.
Yeah.
With a little bit of medieval vibes I get from that as well. But that seems like more of a state capital. But that does look like an important building though, and it is nice.
It does look like an important building. I will give it that.
Yeah.
Far too important of a state from a population perspective and from a historical perspective for a building like this to be the state capital. It looks more like a plantation house.
Okay.
New Jersey's is like a haphazard mishmash of different architectural styles. Doesn't really look good together. And it's hard to get a good picture of it too because the dome is set way back.
It just kind of look
pretty
weird.
far back from the building.
That's the whole building.
Weird with all these wings that don't quite
modern
fit together.
old
So it's kind of a mess, but it's also pretty fitting for New Jersey. Florida is another one that I just really don't like. It's got this building in the front looks kind of like a plantation house, and then this.
Yeah,
they remind me of like a beach shutter. Like
shutter's not the best, and then I assume that's a building behind it. It's not the best space. No. The skyscraper just blocks the dome a bit, doesn't it? Kind of like the dome, kind of. Yeah.
Stupid looking office tower behind it. It just doesn't look right. And the official pictures of it always show it from a close-up angle to where you can't see how stupid the high-rise behind it looks. And there's nothing inherently wrong with a high-rise capital, but the one for Florida is really ugly. It just doesn't look right as a state capital.
It is random just having the one
has
behind
another
it.
capital that doesn't look quite right. It's almost like they were in the process of building it but didn't finish, or maybe its arms were chopped off. That dome thing on top doesn't look quite right with the building. And overall, this isn't a very good building to represent a big state like Tennessee.
Okay.
North Carolina's is another one where it looks like it would
be
a different type of building. It looks more like a Supreme Court building. And you can't even see the dome from ground level.
It's a dome?
And it just doesn't look quite right as a state capital.
Kinda.
It's a small building for a big state, and it just doesn't really represent the state very well. Ohio's capital looks more like a city hall, and that rotunda thing on top looks like it wasn't finished.
Museum vibes.
Yeah.
That gives me museum vibes.
The big front steps.
And then it still extends along a bit with the big windows. Yeah, it gives me museum vibes.
Within the setting of downtown Columbus, it just doesn't look quite right. And it doesn't have to be a huge building, because a lot of these buildings were built before these states were heavily populated, but this still doesn't look quite right for a state capital. And nowadays, that Ohio is a huge state, it definitely is very underwhelming. You see Oregon's, and you're like, what the hell is this stupid looking thing? It looks like the building that would be the headquarters of a cult, like the Scientology building or something. It just is a weird building for a state capital. And yeah, Oregon's a pretty weird state, and I do kind of like the architecture of this building. It's just a terrible building for a state capital. North Dakota has probably the saddest state capital in the country, in that the original one burned down during the Great Depression. And during that time, the state didn't have the money to build a nice new one, so they went kind of cheap.
Is that what they bought?
We'll just build some kind of normal-looking office tower.
We just bought like a little plaque.
But I wish they would have had the foresight.
It's outside to do the meeting.
It's just a plaque, yeah. We pull up some chairs. We got our camp chairs.
Well, I wasn't sure where it was going.
I think that is the saddest one I've seen so far.
But
it looks a bit run down. It looks run down.
Yeah, but that's not their fault, 'cause it's not the original, is it?
Yeah, but you can still maintain and look after a building.
Yeah, true.
It just looks run down. Do you know what I mean?
I think it looks...
It could do with a lick of paint.
Yeah, it looks sad though as well because of the trees and the grass and the grey.
Yeah. But there's only things. I just think it needs to be better maintained.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Good sized car park though. I'll give you that.
Oh yeah, definitely a lot of cars in that.
To know that this will be the building that represents your state
it's
for eternity. So go ahead and spend the money. Even if it's during the Great Depression, find a way to build something nicer than this, because now they're stuck with this ugly office tower forever.
That looked more cleaned up.
In my opinion, Michigan has the ugliest state capital with the traditional style dome. The dome itself looks like it went through a vice grip and is being squeezed, and it doesn't match the building. Looks like the building itself went through a dust storm.
It is a bit random.
Power wash it afterward. Then they added this dome that doesn't match it to the top. The facade looks like an old Cold War style building. So overall, this thing just doesn't look right, and it's pretty ugly. Oklahoma's building itself isn't that bad, but what makes it low on this list is that there's a working oil derrick on the State House grounds with a Phillips 66 corporate logo on it. You can't have one iota of integrity, Oklahoma, and
it looks
nice. It doesn't hurt it on this list, but it is interesting to note that it's one of only 2 state capitol buildings that isn't downtown, so it's a couple of miles away from downtown Oklahoma City. But yeah, Oklahoma, keeping it classy.
That's my favorite so far.
Arizona's is an interesting building, but I don't think it's a good state capital. And the additional buildings off to the side just look like ugly Cold War style buildings, and I don't think it looks southwest enough to be the state capital for a state like Arizona. So, again, interesting building, just not a good state capital. Louisiana's is the third of 4 high-rise state capitals, and it looks okay. It looks kind of like the Empire State Building style architecture.
Oh, there you go. Literally read your mind. Empire State Building vibes with a bit bigger base. I still prefer Oklahoma's.
Do you?
Yeah, definitely Oklahoma's for me so far.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But I wish they would have done something more like their original state capitol, which was kind of French-style architecture, and that would have looked really good for Louisiana, being with its French heritage and all. So, you know, this building looks like a pretty cool downtown office complex building, but not a great state capitol. I'm not knocking Delaware's because of its size. It's a small state. It doesn't need to have a giant state capitol, but this particular building doesn't look like it would be a state capitol. It looks more like the oldest building on the university campus.
It does work.
So, you know, nice enough looking building, just not a good state capital.
The white thing behind them.
Hawaii's is probably
I
one
feel
of
like
They need to make them like
same colour.
Yeah, why are we doing different bright
I
colours?
get you can't go brick for it, but you could go similar. You've gone for light white, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the different colours.
I liked the layout of the brick. It was quite nice. It all tied in. I didn't mind that one. It was nice. Ooh, this looks funky.
It looks like a train station.
A train station. That does give me airport vibes. I wouldn't say train station, but airport vibes.
The bottom bit gave me train station vibes.
Okay.
the most
Definitely
polarizing
airport.
of the capitals. But it's not a very traditional looking building, but Hawaii is a very unique state, so it shouldn't have a traditional looking capitol building.
Whoa.
Ooh.
A lot of folks would say it looks kind of ugly, but I think it looks a lot better when you look at it within the context of downtown Honolulu. It really stands
Oh,
out.
I like it.
And it does look like it would be the state
That
capital
looks
for a
Hawaiian.
unique state like Hawaii. So I think it's okay, but not one of the best in the country.
That looks Hawaiian.
Along those same
Not
lines,
fan.
New Mexico has a very unique style capital, and it's very polarizing as well.
round.
From the grounds level, you can't really see the historical significance of it. From the air, you can see it shaped like the symbol of the sun of the indigenous groups of the state. And a traditional style Capitol building would
looks
look
nice
really
there.
weird in downtown Santa Fe. So I think it's an okay Capitol, and it works for a state like New Mexico, but it still isn't one of the best in the country.
I like it.
Yeah.
Beginning with Alabama, we're
nice.
starting to get into the more traditional style Capitol buildings with
The dome ties in.
neoclassical
It matches.
architecture and the dome on top. And I do like the bright whiteness of it, but that clock reminds me of Back to the Future.
that
I don't
rubbish
think it's a
flag,
very
though.
good look for a state capitol. And overall, the building itself is
That is
pretty
nice,
nice,
I
but
like
not one of the best neoclassical architecture ones. The small size of New Hampshire's capital works well for a small state.
This just proves its personal opinion, because Alabama's for me above a New Hampshire's all day long. All day long. They're not even comparable. Don't get me wrong, it's quite nice, but I prefer Alabama's way more. You know what I mean?
But then, like, there was a few I'd put above, like...
Hawaii's was nice. I liked it.
I
liked
would
it.
have put Hawaii's further down.
It just gave me Hawaii character. I don't know why, but if I pictured being in Hawaii,
character.
that looked like it was Hawaiian. You know what I mean? It just looked Hawaiian. I don't know why. It just did.
And from this point
Hawaii
forward, I
character.
like all
It
the
looks
Capitol
Hawaiian.
buildings, so I'm going to be nitpicking here. The thing I don't like about this one is that the dome doesn't quite work right with the rest of the building.
No, I think
I
it
very
kinda
much
does.
like contrasting color between the dome and the building, but this one looks like it wasn't trying to be contrasting. It's just the two different parts of the building didn't fade at the same rate. So I think it's an okay building. It's just not one of my absolute favorites.
Okay.
Maryland is another one where the building looks like it
It's
might be
off-center.
something other than the state capitol. And I've ranked other states low because of that, but the reason why I'm not ranking
Where's
Maryland
the
low is
picture?
because it's the oldest state capitol still in use. Most of the other states built a brand new state capitol at some point because the state got a lot larger with population. They needed more size, needed to expand.
Looks
and build
nice,
a brand
eh?
new building.
It's a lot of
Maryland
steps.
said, screw that, we're keeping the old
In all
one.
of these.
And it looks really
Okay.
good within the very...
I don't think it's offset. I think the
It
picture.
was the picture was like off to the side.
Yeah, it made it look so off centre. I like it actually. Oh, with the surrounding neighbourhood, it works.
fits in.
It's got a little bit of a grand dome, bit of a grand entrance,
Yeah,
but then the rest of it's a building.
Yeah,
That has saved it for me, that picture, because it ties in, you know?
I get you.
historic
I like
downtown
it.
Annapolis, so it is probably the best one that doesn't look like a state capitol.
Okay.
Massachusetts is one that looks really unique, and I like the look of it, but I don't really like the wings that were added to it. It doesn't
Don't know
really
if I like the
match
gold
that
on
well.
this one.
It matches better than, say, the stuff that was
No.
added to New Jersey's, which just looks like a drunk person.
I don't
put
think
all
the
this stuff
gold
together,
goes with
so
it.
It looks better than that. I like the gold dome on top, but
Oh,
overall,
wow.
this building isn't one of my absolute favorites. Georgia has another very classy,
That's
city
nice.
look to it. It's clearly the state capitol, but the nitpick for here is that the state capitol grounds are tiny. A little old lady can throw a football from the front steps of the capitol onto the busy street in front of it. So to get a picture of
Yeah,
it,
that's
you
a
have
nice
to be
building.
in the road. And
Yeah.
the way I had to do it was on a Sunday when no one's around to get a picture of the building from far back. So the grounds itself don't
Yeah, I
really
like
work.
it.
The building is okay, but again, I'm at the
It
point in the
works.
video
The
where I'm
building
nitpicking
works.
here. Maine is another one that plays it
Ooh.
safe with traditional neoclassical
green.
architecture with a big dome
Yeah.
on top, and it looks nice. The only issue I have with it is that the dome doesn't quite work well with the building. It's a little bit off.
I like, you know what? That's weird. I mean, it's just everyone's opinion. I didn't like the gold a couple ago. It looked kind of, it didn't look like a dome. It looked like a ball, didn't it?
Yeah, whereas I like that with the green.
I like it because it's not a bright green. It could be a little bit more faded, I reckon.
But I think it just goes with the whole main vibe. I think I like that.
Yeah, I like it as well.
The West New Hampshire, the contrast isn't enough to look good. It looks like it's not trying to be contrasting. It's just they didn't fade at the same rate. So overall, good-looking building, but not one of the best. Washington has that traditional style Capitol building.
Nice.
I do like it. I think it looks very good, but nitpicking here, it looks kind of like a Supreme Court building with a giant dome on top, and it also looks kind of dirty, like it needs to be power washed or something. So it is a classy looking stately building, and it's obviously a state capitol building, but overall, it's still not one of the best. Idaho has a nice stately looking building, but just like Michigan, it looks like it went through a dust storm and they didn't clean it off afterward. And a lot of states can pull that look off where it's a brown or tan tinge to it, but for Idaho, it doesn't look like it was meant to be that way. It just looks dirty. Size-wise, Montana's capital is pretty fitting for a state with its population. It does follow that same traditional architectural style, but the dome on top is pretty unique. And this is the kind of contrast I like between the dome and the regular part of the building. So some of those other states, the dome didn't quite look contrasting enough.
I don't like that dome.
But this one does have a pretty good contrast.
That angle does it.
I'm not a fan. State House in Montana is really cool because they do different types of landscaping each year, a special different design depending on the year it is. So overall, I think Montana's state capital is pretty cool looking. South Carolina is another one where the Capitol building is of that traditional.
I'm not a fan of that either.
That's even more traditional.
The dome.
Yeah, with the dormers on the dome. I mean, that's incredible.
The building is lovely.
And it seems even more traditional, but I'm not a fan.
No, I'm not.
Not a fan of that dome at all.
I'm not.
Architectural style, but kind of like Montana, it has a really unique looking dome that provides a nice contrast with the rest of the building. The building itself isn't spectacular. It's a nice looking building and the grounds are very nice, but I think, again, the contrast of that dome and the building makes it look really good. And with South Carolina being one of the smallest southern states, it's appropriate that the state capitol building itself isn't terribly large.
Okay.
Vermont is a perfect example of how a state capitol can be perfect for a state.
It's the gold
Vermont's
again.
a cute little state, and this capitol is a cute little building. And unlike some of the other small states like Delaware, you can't really tell that's the state capitol. It's just a small building.
I like that.
This one is clearly the state capitol for Vermont, and it's very fitting for a state.
A picture can make everything looks
better an angle, the lighting. Literally, you can take the two pictures from the exact same thing, but if the lighting's different, it can look completely different.
The gold looks nice on that photo.
It's bright. It looks new. Yeah,
whereas the other one did look a little bit faded, but that looks nice.
It does. It's just different pictures do it, don't they?
Size. The next five are all very, very similar to each other, so I'm going to be doing some serious nitpicking here. But of those five, I'm going to rank Rhode Island the lowest, even though it's a very nice building, very classy. Domes. Although it is kind of a large building for the tiny state. But what makes this one not quite as nice as the four right in front of it is that the grounds themselves are not that nice. It's basically just parking lot and streets, but not really any nice landscaping to make the building look as nice as it really should.
Okay.
Kentucky's gets a little bit of a nod over Rhode Island, and that the grounds are a little bit nicer, even though the building is pretty similar. It's monochromatic white, pretty similar dome, traditional architectural style, but it shows that the grounds can make a building look a little bit better, even though the building itself is kind of the same. The third of the five that look very similar to each other is Arkansas. But I'm going to give Arkansas a little bit of a nod over the two behind
Looks a bit bigger.
It sits on a high hill overlooking downtown. I think it's a pretty good look for a Capitol building, like the man looking down on the peons of downtown.
Oh, that's nice.
But, seriously, I do think it looks a little bit classier when the Capitol building is high up on a hill. It just makes the whole town look a little bit classier because you're in the state capitol.
Yeah,
Missouri is the next of these group of five that all look very similar to each other, but I think Missouri's looks slightly more stately, maybe slightly classier. It's kind of hard to put into words. But I think this looks a little tiny bit nicer.
Ooh, it looks nice to
the setting along the river is pretty nice, but it's really hard to decide between these five that all look very similar. But all five look very good, and Missouri is one of them. And the last of the five that look very similar to each other is Mississippi. I'm not going to rank Mississippi just slightly higher than the other four because I like the grounds a little bit more. You have more trees and that slightly wooded type aspect to it. I like the gold eagle on top.
Gold eagle. Yeah. I'm trying to think what that's called, but I don't know what it's called. It's a little statue on the top, but I think there's a word for it, kind of like a pet. Do you know, on a car when you got like them at the front, people used to steal it.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it's called, but I feel like there's a word for it.
Yeah, the dome. Sure. So when you're trying to decide between five very similar looking state capitals, you have to pick something very small details. And I do like the little bit wooded area, and I like the gold eagle on top. After seeing 5 in a row that all look very similar, one like Wyoming's will really start to stand out.
That gold
so if you
works.
take a general overview of the state capitals, so many of them are just a building with a dome on top, but all have the same architectural style. But you can see how you can do things a little bit differently. So the 5 in front of it all look very nice, although they're not terribly unique from each other. Wyoming's a little bit more unique, and it's a relatively small size, which is fitting for the least populated state in the country. Indiana's has a very grand look to it. I like the contrast between the roof color and the dome with the building itself. And I like how it has a little bit of a horizontal definition to it. It isn't quite a flat front to it. Just a couple of unique touches that makes it look a little bit nicer than the ones behind it.
Okay.
Colorado's is another example of a building that has the same typical architectural style with a dome on top, but a few details makes it look a little bit nicer. I like the gold dome. The setting of it with the grounds in front.
Yeah, that looks nice.
It sits right across the plaza from the very stately-looking Denver City Hall. So it's just a pretty cool look with all the government stuff right there. But overall, a real nice-looking state capitol. Kansas is another one that has a pretty traditional-looking architectural design, but that dome makes it look so much nicer. It's kind of disproportionate in size, but in a good way. The contrast is nice. The State House grounds are nice. So overall, Kansas, a really classy-looking state capitol, and we're getting to some of the best ones in the country here.
Not a big fan of it.
I don't know exactly what it is about South Dakota that makes me like it so much, but I just think it looks really cool. And when my wife and I were there,
people are gonna hate I'm gonna say this, and again, I may have liked this 3.5 years ago. The dome, when it's that black with the dormer windows, it kind of reminds me of like a scuba diving helmet with all the stuff coming off it. And I just think it's just too much.
Yeah, if it's a bit more simpler, I feel like it might have been...
Don't get me wrong, it's a nice dormer window. There's so much skill in creating that. But it's just there's too much coming off it. And then the colour reminds me of a scuba mask.
Sometimes simple as well.
Yeah. And the colour, I think the colour is what pushes. If it was a different colour, I may like it with the dormers. I don't know. It just gives you them vibes.
It's too standoffish. Like, notice me.
I need to watch a video I did 3 years ago. I want to know what I said about one, because I may have liked it. I don't know.
We were both like, wow, this is one of the coolest looking state capitals in the country. But I don't know exactly why. I'm not sure if it's the contrast of the dark dome with the white building, or the fact that it's in a really
that looks
cute
nice
little
from a
town
distance.
like Pierre.
Does it nice from a distance?
It's a small little town with a nice looking state capital. So overall, I think it's one of the best ones in the country. You might be surprised to see me rank Nebraska so high, as it's just a high rise, but unlike Florida's and North Dakota's that are just ugly high rises, or Louisiana's that just looks like a regular kind of high rise. This is clearly not a regular kind of high rise.
I like it.
I wouldn't say that's above some of them.
It looks very grand and stately. And to me, it looks clearly like a state capital, even though it has a very, very unique look to it. So I really like Nebraska's, even though most people don't. Utah's is another one that's a very grand-looking, stately capital building.
I mean, the colour, there's not the stuff coming off it. I know it's just dormer windows, but there's not stuff coming off it that I like. Do you know what I mean?
Like that.
I like that. I do.
And kind of like Arkansas, it sits on a high hill that overlooks downtown Salt Lake City, which is a pretty cool look. But if you live in California, you might be thinking, wait a minute, that's our capital. That looks exactly like ours, and it really kind of does. But overall, it still is a very nice-looking capital. Leading off the top 10 is Wisconsin. And when you first look at it, it looks pretty similar to those five that all look alike. But what makes Wisconsin a lot different is the fact that it has kind of a 3D feel to it, where it's got an X kind of layout to it. I think it looks really good, especially when you see it from an aerial photograph.
That a lot.
Just that little unique detail makes it one of the nicer ones. It makes it stand out from the five that look very similar to it from a straight-up architectural standpoint. Texas, as you'd expect, has a huge, grand-looking state capital. It looks very nice in that traditional architectural style, but it also has that kind of dusty...
Wisconsin so far is still my favourite. Just even with ground view, you've been invited into
I like the different... It's not so, like, big and bulky.
But you still have that big and bulky dome.
But it's like, I don't know, it's more personal.
Yeah, like, it's unique. You've got you've got change the direction you're in. It don't feel big and bulky.
I don't know. I like that whole environment.
Definitely. No, it's good.
Dirty look
that is nice.
I don't really like too much, and the dome doesn't quite match the building, so it doesn't quite have the good contrast. But why I have Texas ranked so high is that every capital has an underground part to it, whether it be a bomb shelter or escape room for the governor kind of thing. But Texas's underground is out in the open, and it looks very nice. And the architecture was done with the underground part as well. So that's a pretty cool aspect, and it's very unique in that way. No other state has an exposed underground like Texas does. Illinois is another one that, kind of like Kansas, has a very disproportionately sized dome from the rest of the building, but I think it looks really good. And I like the unique look to this building. Although
That's
it does
okay.
have a not quite matching dome from the rest of the building, but overall I think it has a very unique look that I like a lot. Whenever I do a ranking of something and I have California ranked high, I almost feel guilty because I'm from there and it's going to be perceived as biased. But I do think this is one of the best looking capitals. I like the bright white, how it contrasts with the dome.
Yeah, it's nice.
It's very ornate and grand as you'd expect from a huge state. It's a huge building. And also, surprisingly enough, it's the most wooded state house grounds in the country. It's just
well
surrounded by
maintained,
trees,
doesn't it?
which makes it look really nice and puts a really nice building in a nice setting. At first glance, West Virginia's looks pretty similar to other states in the country.
Pattern on the dome,
Traditional
I like
architectural style with a dome, but man, that dome is gorgeous. It's the most beautiful dome of all the capitals that has a dome. And just like Oklahoma City, the building isn't downtown, but that hurts Oklahoma because 2 miles from downtown Oklahoma City is flat and brown and bland. 2 miles from downtown Charleston is gorgeous and wooded right along the river, so it's a really nice setting for a nice building, and yeah, it's all about that dome. New York's is obviously a very different architectural style than the rest. It's the same style as the Parliament.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that's probably one of my favourite, but it's different, unique, bit gothic.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
Yeah, I suppose.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. I'm just surprised at that.
There's a lot of history in New York.
I don't know what I expected, but it wasn't that.
If Boston were going to have a state capital like that, I'd have said that. If someone said what state capital is that, and I didn't know,
gives me New Englandy vibes.
I'd have said Boston. But yeah,
it gives me New England vibes.
I'd have put it lower, but A for trying to be different. A for effort. You know what I mean?
I rate the red.
Building in Ottawa, Canada. So it's very stately, very grand looking, but it's obviously a state capitol building. It's obviously a government building for a very powerful state. So I really like the look of it. Really unique, really cool looking. Okay. Minnesota shows how you can do that traditional style building, but make it look so much nicer. That marbled look looks so cool. The gold in front of it constantly nice. It just has a really nice setting right downtown St. Paul.
I like that.
So it just does that style a lot better than almost any other state. Gorgeous capitol building. Pennsylvania's has a look to it that just makes it look powerful. And it's a powerful state, but it just looks like the capitol building of a country. It just, there's something about it that just makes it look a little more big time than most of the other states. And it is an absolutely gorgeous building with a beautiful dome that contrasts with the rest of the building. The grounds are very nice. So yeah, definitely overall, this is one of the best ones.
I know what he means about powerful.
Iowa shows that they do kind of a dirty, dusty look, but make it look really, really nice. I love the way the multiple domes look. Nice contrast with the rest of the building. And just like Arkansas and Utah, it sits on a high hill that overlooks downtown. So it just has a really nice setting, a gorgeous building. I think it's the most beautiful building of the traditional architectural style. And now for what I feel is the best state capital in the entire country, and that's Connecticut. You can't possibly look at this building and tell me it's not badass. The architecture is gorgeous. It's very unique.
I kind of get why he's put as number one. It's kind of gives you a bit medieval kind of vibes with a massive gold thing. Not my favourite.
Not my favourite.
The last couple haven't been my favourite, but it's all personal opinion.
Yeah.
I can get why he likes this.
I get it. I understand.
Same. But
it's definitely opinion though.
Definitely.
There's nothing else like it in the entire U.S., but it's also clearly a government building. It's clearly the state capital for Connecticut. It's just done with a very unique style, a unique take on it, and perhaps a little bit classier than some of the other state capitals. But yeah, in my opinion, this is the most beautiful state capital in the entire country. So that's my ranking of the 50
Enjoy that.
It was good, yeah. Interesting to see them all.
Definitely. I think our list would be...
I'd have moved a few, but...
If we did the list, I feel like they'd be completely different.
Yeah.
If we were just given pictures and we're like, yeah, I think they would be completely different. But there's nothing wrong in that. Let us know your favourite one in the comments below. I'm going to stick with Wisconsin.
Yeah, that was my favourite. I liked the shape. I think it was very different to every other.
Different. And I really like Texas, which was the next one. Mainly because that underground bit looks stunning.
See, I liked Maine's.
Okay. Yeah, it's good. Smash that button. Let us know what you liked in the comments below. Smash that like button and subscribe button and check out Patreon. Hope you enjoyed the stream before this. Hope you enjoyed this video. And what should they do?
Have a fantastic day.
And we'll see you, legends, in the next one. Peace.